Hey everyone, and welcome back to 15-Minute Discourse. Today we are going to take a deep dive into something pretty amazing,
Oh, yeah.
space farming. So imagine, packing a lunch for a 3-year trip to Mars.
Yeah.
That's a lot of meal prepping.
It really makes you think about all the things we take for granted here, on Earth,
Totally.
like fresh food,
Yeah?
and the idea of actually growing food out in space. It might sound like something straight out of science fiction,
Yeah.
but it's actually becoming more and more important as we go further into space.
So how did this even get started? Like, was it something from a movie? Or did scientists one day just decide, hey, let's grow some lettuce in space?
I mean, the idea of farming in space has been around for a while,
Yeah.
but the first real attempt,
Like for real?
yeah, back in 1971,
Wow.
on the Salyut 1 space station,
Okay.
they grew vegetables, leeks, onions, even Chinese cabbage.
In space? I had no idea. That's incredible.
Yeah,
But I'm guessing those first tries were pretty basic compared to what's happening now.
yeah. You're right. Those early experiments were more about proving it could be done.
Yeah.
Like, can we even grow plants in space? And they were important because they paved the way for bioregenerative life support systems, or BLSS. It's
Right.
like this mini ecosystem,
Oh.
totally self-sustaining.
Nice.
And the plants are like the main attraction.
The stars of the show.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's not just about space salads then. What makes these BLSS systems so important for space travel, going further?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
It's all about creating a closed-loop environment.
Like a little bubble of Earth.
Exactly, like a tiny Earth in a spaceship.
Wow.
And plants, they're essential for making that work.
Okay.
They provide food, obviously,
Yeah.
but also oxygen.
Right.
And they help remove that carbon dioxide.
So they're like cleaning the air too.
Exactly. They even help recycle waste.
Wow. So it's like having a little piece of Earth out there in space.
Exactly.
And the plants are making it all happen.
The plants are the key.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
So to keep everything going,
Yeah.
how many types of plants are we talking?
To make it truly sustainable, we need a variety of crops.
Great.
At least 15 different species.
15. Why so many?
Think about what we eat here on Earth. You need a balanced diet,
Of
right?
course.
Same goes for astronauts.
Makes sense.
So, for instance, soybeans,
Yeah.
great source of protein.
Right.
Then you got sweet potatoes for carbs and vitamins.
Okay.
Each crop has its own role to play,
Yeah.
keeping those astronauts healthy and the system in balance.
Got it.
It's all about creating that self-sufficiency.
So what kind of tech are we talking about here? Are we sending robot farmers into space?
Well, there are some robots involved,
Oh.
but it's not quite like the movies just yet.
Okay.
A great example is NASA's Veggie system.
Veggie.
Yeah.
You.
It's up on the International Space Station, and it's essentially a deployable unit.
Okay.
Think high-tech salad garden.
Nice.
They've managed to grow various leafy greens in it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and considering the challenges of microgravity,
Oh, yeah, that must be tough.
it's quite impressive.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
Have you heard about that lunar micro-ecosystem experiment?
Oh, absolutely.
It's amazing.
Yeah, the Chinese sent it to the moon.
Yeah, on the Chang'e 4 lander.
It was like a mini biosphere.
Yeah, with seeds and insect eggs.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It was groundbreaking. It showed that we could create these closed ecosystems,
on the moon.
even on the lunar surface.
That's so cool.
But we got to be real here, adapting Earth's farming methods to space.
Yeah.
It's a huge challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, how do you even water plants when everything's floating around?
Right.
And what about all that radiation in space?
Yeah, you've hit some key points.
Yeah.
Microgravity changes how water and nutrients behave.
Okay.
It affects how plants absorb and transport things,
I see.
which impacts their growth. And about the radiation.
Yeah.
Without Earth's atmosphere, plants are exposed to way higher levels.
Yeah.
And that can damage their cells.
Your DNA and everything.
Exactly. It's harmful radiation.
So how do scientists even begin to deal with these problems? Is it all super high tech, or are they getting inspiration from nature?
It's a bit of both.
Okay, cool.
So take nutrient delivery, for example.
Okay.
There are two main systems being explored, hydroponics
Like
and solid substrate systems.
solid substrate.
Yeah, hydroponics is where you grow plants
Okay.
directly in water full of nutrients.
Like in those trendy urban farms.
Exactly. And then solid substrate systems use things like clay pebbles.
Oh, like those little balls.
Yeah, or rock wool to hold the roots.
Okay, I see.
So both ways have their pros and cons.
Hydroponics sounds pretty futuristic, though.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. What are the advantages of using that in space over regular soil?
Well, in space, it's all about using resources wisely.
Yeah, makes sense.
And with hydroponics, you can really control the nutrients precisely. Okay.
Plus, you avoid all the issues of soil-borne diseases.
Oh, that's smart, especially in space.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are some downsides too, right?
Oh, of course, especially in microgravity.
Yeah.
Keeping enough oxygen in the root zone is tricky.
Right, because there's no gravity to help things circulate.
Exactly. And that's where some really cool sensor tech comes in.
Okay,
These sensors can keep track of oxygen levels
got it.
and even detect if the plants are stressed.
Whoa, so they're like giving the plants their own little life support systems
Yeah, kind of like their own personal spaceship.
within the bigger spaceship.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, that is pretty wild. It's amazing how we can learn so much just by trying to grow plants in space.
Absolutely. And it's not just about space.
Right.
These innovations are actually helping agriculture back here on Earth, too.
Wait, so space farming is influencing what we're doing here?
Exactly. Take LEDs, for example.
Okay.
NASA developed them to give plants the best light in space.
Makes sense.
And now you see LEDs everywhere. Oh, yeah. True, in vertical farms and greenhouses.
Precisely. They're super energy efficient.
Yeah.
And you can control the light spectrum for better growth.
Wow. So we're learning how to better grow food here by figuring out how to grow it in the most extreme environment possible.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's incredible. So space exploration is having these ripple effects.
For sure.
Who knew that trying to grow a tomato on Mars could help us feed people here on Earth?
It's pretty remarkable. It shows how creative and innovative we can be when we're faced with challenges like this.
Totally. But space farming isn't just about finding practical solutions.
Right.
It also makes us think about our relationship with nature.
You got it.
Yeah, and it makes me want to know more about this regenerative agriculture thing. I keep hearing about how important it is for sustainability.
Yeah. Both on Earth and in space. You're right on the money there.
Yeah.
The whole idea behind regenerative agriculture
Yeah.
is to work with nature
Okay.
instead of against it. And that's key for sustainable food production.
Whether it's on Mars or in a field somewhere.
Exactly.
I've been reading about practices like no-till farming
Yeah.
and cover cropping.
Uh-huh.
They help make the soil healthier. But how does that work on a space farm?
Good question. You're basically starting from scratch there.
Right, with just rocks and stuff.
Yeah, that's what researchers are working on now.
Okay.
Trying to figure out how to make artificial soils that are similar to what we have here on Earth.
Fascinating. And with AI and robots getting more advanced, I can only imagine how much they'll change space farming in the future.
Oh, absolutely. Some companies are already using AI systems,
Oh, yeah? Like who?
like Oishi, for instance.
Okay.
They're optimizing the growing conditions in vertical farms.
So using AI to control everything.
Yeah, pretty much the temperature, the humidity, even how the nutrients are delivered and the light cycles.
That's insane. So robots are taking over the planting and harvesting, too.
Yeah, they can even do the packaging.
Yeah.
Yeah, that frees up humans to focus on more complex tasks.
Wow.
And of course, it reduces costs.
It's like a farm from the future.
Exactly, both in space and here.
Yeah, that's amazing. But with all this talk about technology,
Yeah,
maybe we should come back to the basics.
the plants themselves.
Exactly. The heart of space farming.
You got it.
It all comes down to understanding how they grow in these unique and challenging environments.
It really does. It's all about the plants. It really is all about figuring out those plants and how they adapt. And as we talk more about this, it makes you realize that picking the right plants is just the beginning.
Right.
It's also about understanding those environments we're sending them to.
Totally. So let's say we're talking Mars.
Okay.
What are the biggest challenges for setting up a space farm there?
Mars is a whole different ballgame. It's got the super thin atmosphere,
Like how thin are we talking?
almost 100 times thinner than Earth's,
Wow.
and it's mostly carbon dioxide.
Not much oxygen then.
Barely any. And the gravity, it's only about 38% of what we're used to.
So the plants would feel a lot lighter.
It's like asking them to live on an alien planet.
Yeah. So how do they even survive?
We gotta create these artificial environments
Okay.
that mimic Earth's conditions.
So like giant greenhouses on Mars?
Exactly.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, gotta maintain the right air pressure, temperature, humidity that works.
And they would have to be pretty strong though, right? To handle all the crazy Martian stuff.
You're telling me Martian greenhouses,
Yeah.
way more complex than anything we build here.
What about those dust storms?
Oh, yeah. Gotta be super tough to withstand those.
And I've heard the temperatures are insane.
Swinging wildly from hot to cold. Designing these things is a real challenge.
And what about radiation? Doesn't Mars have a weaker magnetic field?
Another big one, Mars gets bombarded with radiation.
From the sun and stuff.
Yeah, the sun and cosmic rays.
So that's got to be bad for the plants.
Not good at all.
How bad are we talking?
It can mess up their cells, damage their DNA.
Oh, no!
Yeah, affects their growth yields, even makes the food unsafe.
So how do you protect them? Lead aprons for space veggies.
Not quite, although that's a funny image.
Yeah.
Scientists are looking into a few options.
Okay.
One is to build greenhouses with special shielding.
Like a force field or something.
Kinda, but more like using Martian soil or water as natural barriers.
Oh, interesting.
Another idea is to develop radiation-resistant plants
Wait, what? How do you do that?
through genetic engineering or selective breeding.
Wow. That's getting pretty sci-fi.
It's like we're becoming cosmic gardeners.
Yeah, creating life on a whole new world.
That's a great way to put it.
And it's not just about copying Earth.
Right.
We can learn from nature, too.
Exactly. There are these organisms called extremophiles.
Extreme.
Extremophiles.
Okay.
They live in some of the harshest conditions on Earth,
Really? Like where?
like deep sea vents or super salty lakes.
Wow, so they're like the ultimate survivors.
They are, and studying them could teach us how to make space plants tougher.
That's amazing. So we're looking at the toughest life on Earth to grow food on other planets.
It's pretty cool, right?
Totally. But what about the Martian soil?
Ah, the regolith.
Regolith, is that what they call it?
Yep. It's very different from Earth soil.
Yeah, I bet. What's the problem with it?
It's missing all the good stuff that makes Earth soil fertile.
Like what?
Organic matter, beneficial microorganisms.
Right.
Plus, it's full of these things called perchlorates.
Perchlorates.
Yeah, and they're toxic to plants.
So no Martian gardens just yet.
Not without some work.
What do you have to do?
We gotta remove those perchlorates and add nutrients.
Sounds complicated.
It is. There are a few methods being explored.
Like what?
Using microbes to break down the toxin.
Oh, like tiny helpers?
Exactly. It's called bioremediation.
Okay, cool. And what's the other way?
You can watch the regolith with special solutions. Kind of like a Martian car wash for the soil.
I like it. Martian soil is a whole other challenge.
It's a big one. And space farming as a whole, it's this massive team effort.
Like who all is involved?
Botanists, engineers, chemists, microbiologists, even psychologists.
What? Why psychology?
It's not just about the plants, remember?
Right.
It's about creating a sustainable ecosystem for humans, too.
That's a good point. It's the whole picture.
Exactly.
Speaking of sustainability,
Yeah.
water is super important in space, right?
Yeah.
How do you handle that on Mars, which is basically a desert?
Water recycling is key.
So you can't waste a drop.
Not a single one. We're talking about capturing condensation,
Okay.
recycling water from showers and sinks.
What about the Martian water? Can you use that?
If we can find it, yeah.
Where would it be?
Maybe in the atmosphere or as ice underground.
Wow. So you have to be really resourceful.
Absolutely.
So it's like this closed loop system?
Exactly. Nothing goes to waste.
I like that. And what about nutrients? Can you recycle those too?
For sure. Composting plant waste, even human waste.
Whoa.
Yeah, it can provide nutrients for future crops.
That's incredible. So space farming is teaching us to be more sustainable here too.
Exactly.
It's like a whole new way of thinking.
It is.
But all this technology, it must be expensive.
You're not wrong. Space farming is a big investment.
Yeah.
It's an investment in our future,
Okay, I see your point.
both in space and here on Earth.
Right. So let's talk money for a minute.
Okay.
What are the major costs involved in this?
Well, the upfront costs are pretty hefty.
Yeah.
Developing and launching the tech is no joke.
What kind of tech are we talking?
Specialized spacecraft habitat modules, life support systems, the farm itself.
Wow, that's a lot.
And then there's the ongoing costs,
Like what?
maintaining the farm,
Okay.
keeping the lights on, literally,
Yeah, I bet.
providing water and nutrients,
Yeah.
and of course paying the staff.
So it's a long-term commitment.
But are there ways to make it cheaper over time?
Definitely. Technology keeps getting better,
Right.
so we can expect more automation,
Okay.
optimized growing techniques, and AI-powered systems.
AI can manage the farms.
Yeah, it can help manage resources and predict how well the crops will do.
That's pretty cool.
And just like in other industries,
Yeah.
innovation and automation will bring costs down and increase productivity.
So it's like a long-term strategy where the initial investment is high, but the potential benefits are huge.
You got it.
Yeah.
Both for space and for Earth.
It's exciting to think about. But we
Yeah.
can't forget about the human side of things.
Absolutely. The astronauts on these space farms,
Yeah.
they're not just scientists and engineers.
Right.
They're farmers, too.
Space farmers?
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
And they'll face a lot of the same challenges as Earth farmers,
Like what?
dealing with pests and unpredictable weather,
Right.
making sure the crops get enough water and nutrients.
But in space, it's even more complicated.
Oh, yeah, much more.
I bet it would feel really isolating, too.
Being so far away from home.
Yeah, surrounded by technology all the time.
NASA and other space agencies are doing a ton of research on that.
On what?
The psychological effects of long space flights.
Makes sense?
They're looking at how isolation and confinement affect people.
It's like a whole new world of challenges.
It is.
So what have they learned so far?
Well, it's super important to have a sense of purpose
Okay.
and to feel connected to other people.
Right.
Astronauts need to feel like they're part of a team
Yeah,
working towards a shared goal.
that makes sense.
And they need time for fun and relaxation.
Of course. You can't just work all the time.
Exactly.
And what about physical health? I know microgravity can do weird things to the body.
It can. It's no joke.
Yeah.
It can cause muscle and bone loss, mess with your heart,
Wow.
even affect your balance and coordination.
So space farmers would have to be super careful.
Definitely. They'd need to exercise regularly
Okay.
and take other steps to stay healthy.
It's a whole new way of living.
Is
What kind of person would even thrive in that environment?
They would need to be adaptable, resilient, resourceful,
Okay.
and great at working with others.
Right, because you're stuck with the same people.
Exactly. Communication is key.
And you got to be able to work on your own, too.
Absolutely. And of course, having that strong sense of purpose is essential.
So it takes a special kind of person to be a space farmer.
It does. But I think the same qualities that make a good farmer here,
Yeah.
patience, observation skills, a love of nature,
Right.
those would all be important for a space farmer too.
It's that connection to the living world,
Exactly.
whether you're on Earth or Mars. It really is amazing to think about all the skills you would need to be a space farmer.
But something I've been wondering about,
Yeah.
what about pollination?
Oh, yes.
Like, how do you deal with that in a sealed environment?
That's a great question. No bees buzzing around.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been a bit of a head scratcher for scientists.
I bet.
You can't
And-
just send a beehive up in a rocket, right? I mean, could you? I'm just picturing bees in little spacesuits now.
Uh-huh. Maybe one day. But for now, they're working on some other solutions.
Oh, like what?
Well, some space farms are trying out artificial pollination.
Artificial pollination.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Imagine tiny drones that act like bees,
Whoa.
moving from flower to flower carrying the pollen.
So robot bees, basically.
Pretty much. There are even robotic arms with delicate brushes
Wow.
that can do the job too.
We're teaching robots to be bees. That's incredible.
It really shows you how complex life on Earth is.
Yeah, and how everything's connected.
Exactly. And it highlights how important biodiversity is.
If we're going to create ecosystems in space,
We can't just focus on the food,
right, we need the whole system.
the whole web of life.
From microbes to insects.
Well, exactly.
Maybe even animals someday.
It's possible. The goal is to build a complete self-sustaining environment.
That's amazing. It makes space farming even more interesting.
It's a fascinating challenge.
So let's dream big for a second. What's the future of space farming?
Let me think.
Could we see huge farms on Mars someday?
Feeding whole colonies?
Yeah.
I think it's definitely possible.
Really?
As technology gets better and cheaper,
Right.
large-scale space farming becomes more realistic.
Imagine fields of wheat on Mars.
It's an incredible thought. Providing food for Martian communities?
Or even underwater farms on Europa.
Wow. Now you're talking.
It's mind-blowing.
Space exploration is all about pushing the limits.
Yeah.
Finding out what's possible.
And space farming embodies that.
It really does.
It's so creative and resourceful.
It makes us rethink how we can sustain life beyond Earth.
Well, this has been an incredible conversation.
It has.
Space farming is a fascinating topic.
So many challenges and opportunities.
It makes you think about the big questions.
Definitely.
So we've gone from the very beginning of space agriculture
Yeah.
to all this high-tech stuff that's shaping the future.
And we've talked about how it can benefit both space and Earth.
Exactly. It's not just about space anymore.
It's about the future of food.
And sustainability,
And it all started with the simple idea of growing plants in space.
which has now become this incredible field.
Full of innovation and discovery.
It's really inspiring to think about.
It is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into space farming, I'm curious, what are your takeaways?
What surprised you? What questions are you still thinking about?
We'd love to hear from you.
And if this has sparked your interest, we encourage you to learn more about space farming.
There are tons of resources out there.
Online and libraries.
Space agencies, research institutions,
It's an exciting field.
and who knows, maybe you'll make the next big discovery.
You could be the one to revolutionize space farming. That's all the time we have for today's episode of 15-Minute Discourse.
Thanks for joining us.
It's been a blast exploring space farming with you.
We had a great time.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And share this episode with your friends.
Until next time, Keep exploring.